As the new reality of living through this pandemic sets in, I've found myself on numerous occasions wrestling with what it means to follow Christ in our times, in our context today. And I've seen things that have unsettled me, and I've also seen things that have inspired me, as I'm sure you also have seen. I was in the grocery store a little over a week ago, just as we were starting to sense where this virus might press us. And I have to say that it was almost surreal. It was like hand-to-hand combat. As I entered that store, I found one of the few remaining carts, and I was thinking, no, this isn't right. It's far too early in the day for this many people to be shopping. And then I saw people pushing past me with carts that were just full to overflowing with dried beans and canned vegetables and pounds and pounds and pounds of meat and gallons of milk, and piled high with all these packages of toilet paper. It was like they were taking all the packages of toilet paper that they could possibly fit on their cart. And the people that I saw, they weren't casually shopping. There was no laughter. There was no idle chatting with friends that they happened to see in the frozen vegetable section. They were on a mission. And as I casually strolled down the aisles, I saw for the first time the empty shelves that I'd heard so much about from my relatives who live in Washington State and California. The empty shelves that I never imagined would reach into Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I have to say that after all that I'd seen packed into those shopping carts as I entered that store, I wasn't too surprised to find that there wasn't a roll of toilet paper left on the shelves. And I have to confess, that made me a little bit angry with all those people that I had seen with 5, 6, 7 packages of toilet paper stuck under their carts. All of a sudden, I was looking at my neighbors as less than. You know what I mean? I was being judgmental. I was thinking of them as greedier than I'd imagined them being just a few minutes earlier. I was thinking of them as being more selfish than I'd ever thought that they would be. That whole toilet paper thing, you know what I mean? I had a few rolls at home, and I knew that we weren't exactly at a crisis moment. Well, not yet. But it was in the back of my mind that we would fairly soon be needing to replenish our stock. So each time that I went to a grocery store, I'd just casually stroll down the aisle to check and see if a shipment had come in. But it hadn't. One day at one store that I was at, they had a sign up that said that they expected a shipment later that day, but alas, by the time that I could return, the shelves were once again empty. As the days passed, I was starting to get a little bit more worried about it, so finally the other day I decided to stop at the store on my way to work and see if there was anything on the shelves. I stopped at my neighborhood store. No luck. I left empty-handed. Then I stopped at another store along the way to the church, but there was nothing. And then I decided that since I was still pretty early for work, I'd drive on past the church and try one last store. As I was pulling into the parking lot, I found myself looking at the carts of the shoppers who were leaving the store, and I saw no signs of toilet paper in their carts, so I kind of resigned myself to not finding any in the store either. But then, as I entered the store, I saw this one young man with just a few things in his cart, including a single package of toilet paper. My hopes, they sprang up. My heart started beating just a little bit faster. If he had just one package, that might mean that there were still more packages on the shelves. But on the other hand, If he had only the one single package of toilet paper, that may well mean that he had taken the very last lonely package of toilet paper in the whole store for himself. My casual walk turned into a serious, determined step in the direction of the toilet tissue aisle. A guy stepped out in front of me as I was heading there, and he was walking very, very slowly for my taste. I was on a mission now, you see. I needed to get to that aisle. I needed to get there while there was at least a chance that there might be a package left. I was tempted to rudely press past this man that was walking so slowly in front of me. I was telling myself, no, just keep it together. Keep it together. I was alarmed and rather annoyed when he turned down the aisle that I was heading for. And I peeked around past the slow walker, eager to see what I could out there in front of us. And there, about halfway down the aisle, I saw all of these empty shelves. Empty shelves. Except for about 10 packages of toilet paper that were left on those shelves. And I'm thinking, okay, move over, buddy, or pick up your pace before somebody else gets there first. But he just kept clumping along. And since we were apparently destined to walk this slowly, I had ample time to read the signs that were taped up to the shelves. The signs that said, no more than 5 packages of paper per customer. Only the 5 was crossed out, and now it said 2 packages. And I thought, hey, this guy, he can't possibly take all of the remaining toilet paper. I am home free. And to my surprise, this guy walked slowly right on past the packages of toilet paper. Didn't even seem to notice them on the shelves. He turned down the aisle towards the dairy display down there, and I never saw him again. So to make a long story short, I was victorious, thank you very much. I claimed my 2 packages, I stuck them under my arms, I paid for them up at the checkout lane, and as I was leaving the building, I wanted just to wave them about. I wanted to spike them into the back seat of my car. I wanted to pound my chest like a professional football player who just scored the winning touchdown. But instead, as I sat down in the front seat, I found myself wondering at the kind of person that I had become. You see, I knew almost immediately that I wasn't the hero of my own story. I wasn't really even any better than those folks that I'd been so judgmental of that first day, that first time I had gone into that store a week or so ago. I was just as self-serving. Well, maybe I hadn't taken a half dozen packages of the stuff, but I had taken all that they had allowed us to take. And as I was thinking about that, it occurred to me that if there had been a hero in this story, it was probably that young man that I had noticed when I entered that store, the one who had just a few things in his cart, only 1 package of toilet paper. I mean, there were probably a dozen more on the shelves when he had walked by. He certainly could have taken 2, but he didn't. He had chosen to take only the 1 package and leave more for others who might be in need. You know what? I wish that I could say that I went back in and returned the 2nd package that I'd taken, but I didn't. Instead, I drove off feeling this odd mixture of guilt and exuberance. And as I've been processing this in myself, it reminds me to be thoughtful during this time of relative scarcity. It reminds me that a part of our Christian witness is in how we react during times of crisis, times of need, times of fear and desperation. It's not so much that we should be irresponsible. It's not so much that we should act in ways that gloss over our own needs and the needs of our families. But at the same time, we need to remember that our actions will be speaking much louder than our words under the pressures that surround us all right now. And so I wonder, the next time we bump into our neighbors in the grocery store and they peek into our shopping carts, will they see our faith in God's continuing love and faithfulness? Or will they see our fears and our anxieties as betrayed by our hoarding of resources that we might otherwise share with our neighbors? And you might well be asking yourselves, how in the world does this story connect with our text today? Well, here's what I'm thinking. When Jesus healed that blind man, he healed his physical blindness in order to point out God's ability to heal our spiritual blindness as well. And I'm offering this story to you this morning as an example of the kind of spiritual blindness that I sometimes find in myself. The kind of blindness that I still need Christ's healing touch to reveal and heal, that I might not continue to walk in my own darkness. And the good news is that even today, God still reveals our blindness to us, and we can then either join the Pharisees in saying, well, certainly you can't be suggesting that we are blind. Certainly you can't be suggesting that I am blind. Or we can be like that man who had been born blind, who rejoices in God's mercy and lives into this healing and shares the good news of God's grace with others. I pray that we will be open to the grace of God that continues to walk with us through every dark valley of our lives, and the grace that promises to lead us into green pastures in the kingdom of our God's eternal light. In these trying times, may you rest assured of God's love, God's hope, God's mercy, and God's peace, now and forever. Amen.